Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. From Mailroom to Corner Office, A Banker's Journey by Dr. R. Srinivasan. This is the cover page of the book. Today, that is 29 July 2025, I am sharing episode 15. These are the YouTube links for episode 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the YouTube links for episode 5, 6, 7, and 8. These are the YouTube links for 9, 10, 11, and 12. And these are the YouTube links for episode 13 and 14. The chapter New Bank of India, New Delhi completed. Now the chapter First Leadership Opportunity will follow. First Leadership Opportunity, New Bank of India. On the evening of January 1st, 1981, at around 7:30 p.m., I got a telephone call from Mr. Rishi Kaul, Additional Secretary, Banking, when I was at home. He asked me that on the very next day I should take charge of the new Bank of India as its chairman. Just imagine my reaction. As there was no discussion with me on this possibility earlier, I was totally taken by surprise, and for a few moments I was lost and could not collect my thoughts. Then I realized that I was keeping quiet and I should respond to the proposition. I gathered myself and asked Shri Kaul why this sudden development and what I should do, what would happen to Mr. Gandotra, and how I could take charge of the bank when he was there. More to the point, could this happen when there are no orders from the government appointing me as chairman? Mr. Cole was known for his very soft voice. He said that as far as the orders were concerned, it would be delivered the next day. Mr. Gandotra had already been informed not to go to the bank, and therefore there would be no embarrassment to be faced by me. I thanked him profusely and assured him that I would do as advised. When I shared this news with my wife and children, no one was able to comprehend the situation development, but they were immensely happy at the turn of events. I did not know how to handle the situation, what my priorities were, etc. I had no one to whom I could turn for advice. The whole night I could not sleep. I don't remember whether it was due to the sudden happiness or the worry about how I should carry the burden of the new office. My eldest son, Sridhar, was 22 years of age at this time. He gave me a piece of advice. He said that the easiest way to handle the situation would be not to do anything as Mr. Gandotra was doing. It really helped me to organize myself. Early morning the next day, January 2nd, 1981, I went to Malai Mandir, a temple on the small hill at Ramkrishnapuram, opposite to Vasant Vihar in New Delhi, to seek God's grace. From there, I drove straight to Mr. Gandotra's house and sought his blessings and guidance. He said that his good wishes were with me, that I would do well, and that at any time I could seek his guidance on any matter. Thus, a boy from a remote village in Tamil Nadu, born in a small Brahmin family without any academic achievements except that he passed his intermediate exam from Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal, 15 years after leaving the school, and had graduated from Karnataka University, Dharwad, 25 years after leaving school, as an external candidate, became the chairman of a nationalized bank in the capital of India. He would go on to get his doctorate in banking from the University of Mumbai in 1992 after retiring from the banking services. Just looking back, how could a person who joined the banking industry as a small-time clerk in a British bank had never worked as a manager of even a rural, semi-urban, urban or metropolitan branch, never made area manager or a regional manager could become a chairman? He did not even pass through the executive director hurdle. My only answer would be that more than any other thing, I had blessings of my mother and father, my guru, and the abundant grace of gods whom I worship. Yes, I proved the adage that hard and sustained labor will never go unrewarded. After settling down, I had a meeting with both the rival unions. I told them that I would be reasonable to their legitimate demands and that if they made undue demands, they can be assured that whatever they might do, they would not get anything from me. I told them that I would not tolerate indiscipline and uncalled for agitations. Whenever they had some issues, they should formally submit their request in writing and give the management a reasonable time to deal with their request. It is only when they do not get any response that they can agitate. This strong message was well understood. Another step I took was to meet Sri Rajiv Gandhi and inform him of the state of affairs in the bank and that the progress of business was hampered due to the rival unions causing unwarranted disturbance. I requested him to send a message to the Congress controlled union to give me their support so that I could firmly handle the other union that had the sympathy and support of the Communist Party of India. Rajiv Gandhi took immediate action. He asked me to go and meet Mr. N.K. Bhatt, who was controlling the Congress unions in the country. I went to Mr. Bhatt straight from my meeting Rajiv Gandhi. Mr. Bhatt told me that he had already got the message and that from that moment onwards there would be no problem caused to me by their union. This gave me a great strength to handle the other section firmly. After I became the chairman, as per the seniority among other executives, I appointed Mr. G. Sethi as the general manager. He himself knew that he did not expect me to give him this position. He confessed it to me and assured me that he would be utterly faithful to my objectives. He had earlier worked in many banks, including foreign banks and UCO Bank, but basically he may not be rated as an officer of high abilities or indeed hardworking. However, he was very good in his own inimitable politicking, backstabbing, etc. More on this in due course. My first visit to Mumbai after I became a chairman was to call on the governor, deputy governors, and important officials of RBI. That was a routine courtesy call. I had requested for an appointment with the chairman of State Bank of India, Mr. P.C.D. Nambiar. At the appointed time, I went to the 18th floor of SBI building at Nariman Point where Mr. Nambiar was sitting. After entering his office, one had to walk about 20 yards to reach his desk, so massive was his room. After exchanging pleasantries and settling down, Mr. Nambiar asked me, "Well, Mr. Srinivasan, you wanted to see me. Tell me, what can I do for you?" I had no agenda for meeting him, so I replied, "Sir, as you know, I have become chairman of a small bank in Delhi. I wanted to meet the chairman of the biggest bank in the country and shake hands with him and feel the thrill." He laughed aloud and assured me all the help I might require. I requested that as NBI could not boast of any big borrowers, and if SBI could allow NBI to participate in their lending to good or big customers, even if it be for 5%, I would be elated. He assured that it would be done and he passed down orders to that effect on to his lower levels. Mr. Nambiar was a bachelor even after he retired from SBI. At a marriage reception met him after several months, he was with his girlfriend. He introduced me to her and narrated my first meeting with him and what I said as above. He was a very fine man, but today he too is no more. During my predecessor's time, the so called union leaders, not one or two, but a band of them, had enjoyed duty free positions in the bank. This meant that they were not attached to any particular seat. They could sign the attendance at will and always be roaming around whenever they felt like, and could go and sit in the union office for which bank made space. Members of the unions who were their cronies could also go to the union office to meet the leaders to discuss their grievances at any time. Their claim to leadership is their ability to hold the manager in fear of creating ugly scenes in the bank. Managers were happy that such persons who create trouble were not in the office. I thought that I should first tackle this situation. I strictly told the unions that only the All India General Secretary of the Union will be given some relaxation in duties, but he too should come to office in time, sign the attendance, and then only move out. No other minions of the leader was allowed this facility. There was a notorious person whose only claim for leadership was his ability to terrorize his bosses by raising his voice and ridiculing him. I needed to tackle him. I called the general secretary of the rival Congress led union and sought his help. He was very happy to help. I made him sit next to that person and ensure that he does not get up from his seat. If he ever rose from it, he would be shouted on and made to sit. This brought a great improvement in the discipline among others. I made it a practice to visit any branch at any time without notice and observe how the work was being conducted there. I also asked all the regional managers to visit branches under them without giving notice of their visits. This kept the managers of branches and staffs on their toes. I also ensured that every office should be neat and clean. Right from the signboards and up to the lunch rooms and toilets, everything should be neat and clean. Branch performance appraisals included some consideration for this aspect also. Nobody was allowed to come late to the office. In fact, I made it mandatory for all staff to be in their seats at 10 a.m., the time at which work commences. This meant that they had to be there before that time. Late arrival without prior permission would be marked down, and if anyone came late for more than 3 times in a month, they would lose 1 day's leave. There were minor variations on this rule depending on the location of the branch and the nature of the clients, etc. But it was important to establish a proper work culture. I had made it clear to the union leaders that it was not my job to promote their unions or increase their membership, but to run the bank with the minimum amount of people and show good results. I assured the union leaders that their demands to improve the service conditions and amenities to the employees would be favorably considered. My approach was well understood by the unions and they stated actively cooperating with the management. I must say that the union leaders at the All India level perfectly understood this even when they were arguing with me when I became chairman of the IBA for augmenting staff strength at banks. When you really want to do something, opportunities have a habit of presenting themselves to you. I also got this chance. On a Saturday, I got a call from Mr. H.C. Puri, the manager of a branch in New Delhi, New Rajinder Nagar branch. He was crying on the phone, and so I asked him what had happened. He asked me to immediately transfer him to any other place as he had no longer liked to continue in that branch. He said that one of the clerks in his office had slapped him in the presence of all the staff, and he felt very humiliated and did not want to continue there. I asked him if he was telling me the truth and whether he could cite any witness for this. He swore in the name of God and confirmed that he was telling the truth. I asked him to immediately write a complaint about this incident. I told him that he needed not to leave his seat and that I would be sending the general manager there. I asked the bank doctor to go to the branch and examine Mr. Puri and certify that he sustained a physical assault on him. Once this was done, I asked the staff department to get details of the assailant, prepare a discharge letter, and make out a check for the dues of that employee up until that date. Just half an hour before the closure of the branch on that Saturday, I asked Mr. Sethi, the general manager, to go to the branch and dismiss the employee. Mr. Sethi asked me if it would be all right to do so without an inquiry or to show cause notice, etc. I told him just to carry out my orders and that I would stand by what I said. Mr. Sethi went to the branch at about 1 p.m. and as instructed waited till the closing closing hours of the bank, called the clerk who slapped the manager and told him that the management was taking a serious stance on the incident and had decided to terminate his services. He gave him the orders and the settlement check, struck out his name from the attendance register with the remark service terminated with effect from date, and then signed it. The said clerk belonged to the majority union affiliated to AIBEA. Therefore, as anticipated, there was a lot of slogan shouting and demonstration in front of the head office and me in particular. Obviously, it came to be known as that it was my order that was implemented. On Monday and Tuesday, there were lots of disturbances. The union sent word to me that there was going to be a mass demonstration in front of my house on a daily basis. I replied that they were welcome to come to my house and demonstrate, but I would not be able to assure them their safe return. My reply really unnerved them and they did not carry out their threat. After a couple of days, things returned to normal. Thereafter, the union approached me for negotiating peace and reinstatement of the dismissed employee. I refused to budge and said discipline was non negotiable. The matter eventually went away. Simultaneously, I introduced an incentive scheme to branches for balancing of books. This matter was a big headache to banks as no one bothered to balance books on a daily basis. It might be recalled that when I started my banking career in 1949, the first thing that I learned was not to leave office until the day's transactions were tallied and the books were balanced. But over the years, this culture gave way to indifference, and any discrepancies found were simply assigned to a clearing difference account, and the books got superficially balanced. This became a monster in the banking industry. Crores of rupees remained unbalanced for several years. I have no clue if this malady is wiped out after computerization was introduced. The incentive schemes helped in clearing the backlog of balancing and timely submission of returns to head office and controlling offices. NBI had as their motto service with a smile and a byline why go elsewhere when new bank is there. The emblem of the bank was too old and became a relic. Following the trend set by State Bank of India under the chairmanship of the great banker Sri R.K. Talwar, some Indian banks felt the need to have a modern logo that appealed to the society as a whole, representing the changed management perspectives on banking from saving and lending to development and instruments of economic change. The Indian banking industry can boast of only one Talwar, and it was my good fortune to have known him when he was secretary and treasurer of SBI Hyderabad Circle when I was in Andhra Bank, Hyderabad. He was the president of Bankers Club there. I therefore decided to change the emblem of New Bank of India as a nationalized bank. I invited ideas from various sources and also from staff. A design along with its explanation suggested by one of our own officers, KG Satya Singhan, the then area manager South, caught my attention. The design and the concept behind it was duly approved by the board. Mr. T.K. Velayudham, eminent economist from Reserve Bank of India who was on our board, helped refine the write-up on the concept note. The symbol was introduced on December 15, 1981 and became very popular in banking circles. At an appropriate time, I will write about an important and interesting event and explain how this emblem was instrumental in upholding my righteousness and saving my career apart from cooling the high volatile political situation in the country, although this happened after I left NBI. Mr. Satya Singhan, a dedicated bank officer, later became one of the general managers of Punjab National Bank, was got merged with PNB in 1993. After retirement, he and his wife settled in New Zealand and then moved to Australia where they live with their sons. He occasionally keeps in touch with me. He and his wife did not allow my wife and I to stay anywhere else except their home at New Zealand when we visited there a few years back. Soon after I became chairman of New Bank of India, one morning at around 8 a.m., I received a call from the minister in charge of banking, with the finance minister was Mr. R. Venkatraman from 1910 to 2009. The minister asked me whether it was a fact that I had transferred one Mr. Bhansali from Bombay to Ahmedabad. I politely replied, "Yes, sir." Immediately, the minister said that he wanted the order to be cancelled. For a moment I was taken aback, but quickly I gathered myself and asked him, "Sir, would it not be better that you had posted your private secretary as the chairman of this bank?" He countered, "What do you mean? I do not understand your answer." Once again I told him, "Sir, only a PA can carry out such orders. I will not be able to cancel the order once issued. That will result in utter disregard to my authority." On hearing this, the minister was so angry that he just slammed down the phone. My wife, who happened to be around at that time, asked about the conversation and why I was so tense during the conversation. I explained the whole story to her. She asked me whether she should start packing our things for return to our native place because I had offended the minister. Luckily, nothing like that happened. I did not understand how the minister, who was known to be a bully, tolerated my stand. I could comprehend it only after some time when I went to Kashmir along with my family for a short holiday. The same minister, who also happened to be in Srinagar at the time, discovered that I was in the city and sent word to ask me join him for a cup of tea at his guest house. I left my family behind in the hotel where I was staying and went to have tea with the honorable minister. I was wondering why he would invite me when my earlier contact with him did not end on a cordial note. Over tea, he asked me about my family and my welfare. He asked me what is the general perception in the banking industry about his handling of the banking portfolio, etc. Suddenly, he asked me whether or not I noticed that he was a hard-working minister. Politeness was required, and so I gave a positive answer. Then came the surprise. He said, I know you're close to the FM. Why don't you tell him how hard-working I am and see that he elevates me from deputy minister to minister of state? At that moment it dawned on me as to why he did not take any action against me for not obeying his orders to cancel Mr. Bhansali's transfer order. I pretended as though what he was asking me to do was not a big matter. It was yet another thing that neither FM was close to me, nor did I pass the deputy minister's request to the FM. Then the minister asked me when I was returning to Delhi and whether I could carry a carpet that he had bought when I went. He said that his PA could meet me at Delhi airport to collect it from me. This was duly done, but to this day I am still unable to understand why I was asked to carry the carpet as part of my luggage and why he could not have brought it with him when he returned to Delhi. New Bank of India, although no more, gave me ample opportunities to learn many things in life. First and foremost, it of these was my learning to speak Punjabi language reasonably well. I can follow the language almost fully but can also speak fairly well too. I can even use some phrases and uncommon idioms at random, making my listeners feel as though I'm very good at that. Second, having been born in a remote village in Tamil Nadu, in a not very well to do family which restricted my travel next to almost nothing, New Bank of India provided me with such great opportunities to travel to places in the north and particularly in Punjab, western UP, and to other holy places such as Amritsar, Haridwar, Rishikesh, and Manikaran, etc. I would not have imagined to visit Kashmir, Shimla, Kullu, Manali, Rohtang Pass, Chandigarh, Hoshiarpur, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Dehradun, Meerut, and Nainital, or such historical places like Jallianwala Bagh or the Wagha border, etc. At each of these places, some experience relating to the banking are deeply etched in my memory. Some of my colleagues in those places deserve to be remembered by me for the support they gave and the affection they showered on me. I will mention just two instances. The first related to my to Ludhiana. NBI had only two branches in that city at Chora Bazar and Millarganj. Ludhiana had immense possibility for foreign exchange businesses. My first visit to that place was to accompany Mr. D.R. Gandotra when he was Deputy General Manager and I was in charge of the FE department. We traveled by train, and as soon as we arrived, we were received by both the managers of the two branches. I was rather surprised that almost the first question my senior colleague asked the local manager was, Ki hal hai? Aaj roti kitte? Do I need to translate this? Then the hilarity will be lost. There was only one hotel, and if I remember correctly, it was called Gulmohar. We stayed there. Let me describe the branches. Main branch was in Chora Bazar, and the manager was Mr. T.L. Ratra. The other branch was headed by a Sardarji. Ratra was a ringleader and was a terror to his staff, and the Sardarji was a meek person who would tremble before Ratra. This tour ended in 2 days after my senior introduced me to the two managers and some prospective clients whom I was to come again and meet to solicit their businesses. Ratra was reportedly running his own empire and never bothered about head office. He had respect only for the chairman, Mr. Tully. He always carried a pistol which terrified anyone dealing with him. Obviously, some of my colleagues must have been wondering how I was going to survive when I visited the branch alone. With this background information, when I went to the branch again alone, I did not even inform the manager about my visit. I went to the branch and I could see how bad the situation was and how this man was bossing around his staff and clients. The first thing I asked him after entering his room was, I heard that you're carrying a pistol. I want to see that. This was entirely different from asking, Aaj roti kithe? I told him that I did not care about his pistol, before I could die only once, and if it was to be at his hands, I would welcome it. With this preliminary introduction, we shook hands and agreed to work together. I told him that I was only interested in work and did not want any other consideration to come between us. Things started working smoothly, and the news of my handling this man gave a lot of encouragement to the other manager, Sardarji. In my own way, I started gathering details about secrets of Ratra and his unofficial dealings. I thought I could use them effectively. Sometime later, I found lot of irregularities in the conduct of the branch and its business. Books remained unbalanced for years, and everything was hidden from the head office. This went on uninterrupted until I became chairman. I took a firm stand and transferred him out of that branch. He did not accept the transfer and was absenting himself, so I had to terminate his services, and the bank heaved a great sigh of relief. I would, however, like to acknowledge his contribution for bringing lot of new foreign exchange businesses of export of woolen hosiery from his branch and cycles from the other branch. We also got business of the export of sports goods from Jalandhar, Jalandhar, and I remember visiting some of the sophisticated factories manufacturing these goods, such as footballs, hockey and cricket equipment. The other visit to Chandigarh I would remember for entirely different reason. The manager there was one Mr. Jawaharlal Nanda. He was a popular man, not well educated, but was very good in his PR. He got a lot of support from the governments, both Haryana and Punjab. I visited his branch as area general manager almost immediately after I became AGM. In the evening, he took me to meet a somewhat nondescript person. Immediately after seeing us, that person started smoking cigars and after 5 minutes recalled how my life was and that I had recently been promoted as AGM. He said that becoming AGM was nothing. He said that I would become in a short while DGM, GM, and even chairman. He said that one day I would become one of the most important persons in the banking industry, that I will be able to head the entire industry, and that the government would not do anything in banking without consulting me. I felt that he was talking nonsense and dismissed all comments and soon returned home. Even though my next man, Mr. J, said he pledged and owed allegiance to me, I was wary of his sincerity. Soon after, he proved that my apprehensions were not unfounded. A small time trader, a woman with only one hand, came to him with a request for a car loan. She must have either known him earlier or come through some source known to him. He recommended the loan for my sanction. I do not recall why he did not dispose of that case at his level, but I found that the repayment capacity of the applicant was not satisfactory. I could not convince myself that she should be sanctioned the loan she asked for. A colleague came to me and explained that the applicant was very close to a powerful politician and that she had lost one of her husbands in a violent fracas involving that person. I would not vouchsafe the veracity of that story. Thereafter, this woman was said to have grown close to the said person who treated this lady as something like an adopted daughter. However, this could also have been a concoction. Considering this background, I was again requested to grant the loan, but I was not willing to change my opinion about her legibility despite these considerations. Much against my will, this lady was brought to my office and I was persuaded to hear her appeal for the loan. While extending her the usual courtesies due to a lady, I politely told her that our credit deposit ratio was very high and that if she could use her influence and get me a decent deposit, I would reconsider the matter. She was not willing to assure me of any help. I told her that according to our executive, she was very close to a politician, and if it was so, it would be a very small matter to get our bank some sizable deposit from any department or statutory body. Once again, she said that she could not do it. At this stage, I made one of the most cardinal, monumental mistakes that ever committed in my life. It was total indiscretion on my part, and I shudder to think of it, even with the distance of time. I really do not know why I made such a ghastly blunder. Most innocuously, and with all sincerity and decent intentions for the good of the bank, I asked this lady whether it was true, as per the general perception, that politicians hold a lot of money in foreign countries, and if so, could she help our bank to get some such deposit? She dodged my request and left after a few minutes. She was reported to have gone back to her politician associate, and both of them were alleged to have hatched a plan to twist my request for a deposit against me. I did not for a moment realize that this instance was one of the most important events to teach me an unforgettable lesson in my life. This matter blew up diabolically in just a short matter of time. A couple of days later, I got a call from the most powerful person in the political hierarchy, and he asked me to go and meet him immediately. I never imagined what was in store for me, but went to see him as requested. After the usual waiting outside the office of such an important and highly placed person, I was called in, and in a very soft tone, he asked whether such and such a thing had happened. The matter could have ended then and there if only I told a lie, that nothing like that ever happened. Instead, I honestly confessed to the incident. Continuing his own inimitable style, and without raising his voice, he asked me whether I knew the implications of what I said, and whether I could imagine that would happen to me if the person referred to came to know of this. The ground beneath my feet was crumbling away, and I was very nervous. I started trembling with fear. I was stunned and soon in tears. I said that the consequences could be very serious, that I could lose my job in the blink of an eye, and that I could be taken into custody for saying such admirable things against an important functionary of the government. I accepted that uttering such unfounded and unsubstantiated statement was unexpected of a civil servant like myself, that I realized the gravity of the matter, and I begged to be pardoned now that I was repenting the mistake. I pleaded that as I was frank in admitting the indiscretion, I should be pardoned. I assured him that never again I would make such a make such a mistake in my life, that I had a family and three children in school, nothing to fall back up on, and that I would be on the streets if action was to be taken against me. I was asked to leave his office, and told that I would be called again. I had to meet that person more than once subsequently. In the meantime, I found out that there was an officer in the bank who happened to know him well since childhood. I called him and narrated the entire story to him. He was taken aback, but assured me of his help to the best of his ability. He was not sure how his friend would react, because the incident related to a powerful politician. This officer was one of the very few straightforward officers of the bank, and had high regards for me. This matter lingered on for a fortnight. I was very much mentally disturbed in that time, and I could not eat or sleep properly. The officer in the bank in whom I had confided took the help of another person, and they formed a triumvirate. When the three met to discuss the background of my honest confession, with my assurance that I would never make such a mistake again in my life, I was part of consequences. Oh, what a relief it was! Fortunately, this ended the matter. The purpose of narrating the above experience is to make the reader realize that anyone in the authority should act responsibly, and be careful in word and deed, and respect his higher ups. To this date, I feel deeply indebted to that one person, and who granted me a fresh lease of official life, that made it possible for me to achieve all the progress that I made in life subsequently. During one of my recent visits to the capital, I went to his house to pay my respects, but he was away on tour. Until the last moment of my life, I will not forget this person who was my savior. The other person who was my officer in the bank, and who also helped me, is no more. I'm sure, with my prayers, he is resting in peace. I remember the incident as well as if it happened only yesterday. I am greatly obliged to every one of them who saved me, and those who made me learn an important lesson in life. Please do not ask me if the car loan was sanctioned and whether it was repaid. Perhaps the officer who recommended the loan might be in a better position to answer that. As the hidden hand of God gives suitable reward or punishment, I continued to progress in life, and I learned that the officer who conspired to involve me got himself caught upon many other improper activities after I left the bank. It was said that he lost his job and had to spend some time in judicial custody for his misdeeds. Although I never kept in touch with him, he came to me when I was CMD of Bank of India to seek my help as chairman of IBA to sort out his issues with RBI. He accepted that RBI had rightly found out his manipulating the deposits of NBI by fictitious entries of transferring funds during the annual closing with the intention of window dressing the deposit figures. He lost his job and he lost his wife. His daughter got divorced and came back to him, etc. I could only sympathize with him. I wish to take a quick look back at the time I was joint general manager of NBI. As I had started looking after other portfolios, the board decided to bring in one Mr. M.S.D. Nair from State Bank of India to take over the foreign exchange department work from me. He was a nice and well behaved officer, but in due course he was drawn into the cesspool of the bank's intrigues and politics. Somehow or the other, there was perceptible change in his attitude towards me. I was therefore totally surprised to get a telephone call from him in 2015. He told me that he was suffering from cancer and that he may not live for long. I conveyed my sympathies and told him I would pray for his recovery. He said that before his end came, he wanted to confess to me that due to misguidance, he had not extended his full support to me while I was higher up in the office and that he had worked against me by joining hands with other senior executives when I became the chairman and managing director. He went on to say that he was feeling very guilty because, in spite of his behavior, he got impartial treatment from me. He wanted me to tell him that I have no ill feeling for him. I assured him that I never felt any animosity between us and that he could take my word and for it and be peaceful. I assured him that when I went to Delhi again, I would call on him. I was not fortunate to fulfill this commitment because by that time he was no more. I felt very sad at his passing. I prayed to God, please forgive these souls for they knew not what they were doing. Being chairman of a Delhi based bank, I had ample opportunities to interact with the bureaucrats, ministers, and those at even higher levels. Some ministers used to call me late in the evening as they were sitting in the office without work but waiting for their boss to leave. My house was within 10 minutes' distance from the North Block where these ministers were sitting, and I would therefore go as soon as I got the calls. They would ask me the market rumors about their working, etc. During one such late evening visit to the North Block, I was attacked by a monkey who scratched my face with his long fingernails. I had to rush and take ATS injection and it took some months for the wound to heal. Any of my readers who know about the North Block will confirm that the monkey menace still continues. I also used to keep in touch with members of parliament, especially those from South India who would willingly accept my hospitality of southern spices. In due course, I was aspiring to move to a bigger bank and I had expressed my desire to the appropriate people. Luckily for me, the post of chairman and the managing director of Indian Overseas Bank Madras was about to become vacant. I thought that would be a good thing to happen to me so that I could be back among my own people. But before I move on to narrate what happened to my efforts in this direction and before I complete the stories connected with my tenure of office in New Bank of India, let me write a few words about some minor irritation caused to me by the union. Although they were not very serious in nature and I could not take them in my stride, I am mentioning this just to keep the record in order. As chairman of the bank, I was going to inaugurate a new branch on the outskirts of Delhi just beyond Ghaziabad. At the request of the new branch manager and the regional manager, I took along with me my wife in the bank's car. We went in the morning and returned to Delhi by lunchtime. There was a circular issued by a union representative saying that I was traveling in the bank's car along with a very charming lady, sounding as though I was flirting with someone. Luckily, it happened to be my wife, and so instead of feeling angry with me, she was very happy that she was referred to as a very charming lady. Another instance was when an anonymous complaint was sent to the ministry saying that I was doing all kinds of wrong things in the bank and that loans were sanctioned on me by me on the basis of recommendations I got from a brother of mine who was apparently in Bangalore. The ministry, as is usual with the government, chose to send the complaint to me for my comments. I was really angry at this. I replied to the banking division saying, I am surprised to get your letter along with a copy of anonymous complaint for my comment. I am now over 50 years of age. The complaint is an eye opener to me. Luckily, my father is still alive. I am going to take the earliest opportunity to meet him in Madras where he lives and ask him why he had kept this fact of my having a brother in Bangalore as a secret for so many years. I will reply to you in due course. Further, I'm based in Delhi and frequently visit your office. Could you not ask me for an explanation when I am in your office instead of giving me these silly matters so much importance to send it officially for my comments? The director in the banking division, Mr. C.V. Michandani, an excellent officer who read my reply, was very happy that I had a sense of humor and appreciated my fitting reply and closed the matter. Before I move on and away from New Bank of India, I wish to recall two matters related to acquiring and possessing real estate properties. The first one relates to the banking, purchasing office space in Maker Towers in Cuff Parade, Mumbai. The bank needed space for its expanded activities, and one flat in Maker Tower was available but in demand. There were competitors for the flat because space in that prestigious building was scarce. At that time, the bank did not have its regular board because the government had not reconstituted the board after the previous one was disbanded. Only the chairman, me, the RBI director Dr. T.K. Velayudhan, and the government director Mr. Ashok Kumar constituted the board. My regional office informed me of the availability of the space. I studied our requirements, read the rate ruling in that area, and made up my mind about the price we could offer. I discussed this with RBI and government directors who took their consent and along with the local officials went to the place and saw the space. The space was very pleasing, so we started talking about the price. Dr. Maker, who was the owner, was also on the scene. He quoted rupees 1,200 per square foot, and I told him that the price was too high. He sarcastically remarked that a Delhi based bank and a small government owned bank could not take any decision on such matters. He said that we would go back, consult the board, and then go to the government for approval, and that this would take 2 or 3 more months, and so there was no point in negotiating the price. I asked him that if I was willing to strike a deal then and there, would he be prepared for a discussion? He asked me when I would pay him the amount. I told him that if the price I offered was accepted by him, he could go with me to my regional office in Veer Nariman Road and take the check, but he did not believe me. He said that his last price would be rupees 1,000 per square foot, and I offered him rupees 840. He was surprised and asked me what the reasoning was for that price, and I told him that I had thoroughly studied the market and that my offer was final. He agreed and came along with me to the office to take the check. Dr. Maker said that he had been in the real estate business for decades and that it was the first time he had ever seen a deal that was finalized in such a short time. He did not know that I had already obtained my board sanction orally and must have thought that I was acting beyond my powers. Anyway, the current market price for space in that building is anywhere over rupees 80,000 a square foot. At a later stage, I will recall an incident that took place at a board meeting in Bank of India while the subject of buying flats for the officers of the bank was tabled. Another incident when I decided to enforce the security of a flat in a building was just opposite the Taj President Hotel in Cuff Parade. The borrower defaulted on a loan of rupees 12 lakhs and so I took possession of the flat and closed the outstanding loan. The borrower died some years after I left the bank and his legal heirs filed a case against the bank for taking over a flat worth rupees 4 crores against the loan of rupees 12 lakhs. The court did not find merit in their case as the value of building at that time and the loan were the considerations. Nothing prevented them from paying the bank's dues and taking back the security without defaulting. In passing, I would like to mention about an incident that happened in Hisar. I was on an official visit to Hisar as it used to be called in those days. Jindals were and are the kings of that place. They have many factories distributed among the brothers Bevichand, Om Prakash, Madan Lal, and Sitaram Jindal. Most successful among them was Mr. Om Prakash Jindal, father of Prithvi, Sajjan, Ratan, and Naveen. He was a great visionary. He and his wife also encountered politics before he died in an air crash in March 2005. We had mutual admiration, and I have visited his factory. His sons have moved out to Mumbai, Delhi, and to politics also. When I was about to leave his factory, I saw someone opening the boot of my car, which was standing about 50 yards away from the portico. This person was trying to deposit a huge tin of around 20 kilos of oil in my car. I stopped him and got it removed. I was told that it was the practice when any of my predecessors visited the factory. I politely told them that I was a different kind of fish. Some readers who have worked in Bangalore or heard about the Nature Cure Institute started by Dr. Sitaram Jindal will be interested in knowing about New Bank of India's connections with them. This institute is on a 100-acre site at the 17th kilometer from Bangalore to Tumkur. Over the years, this place has become very famous and is known throughout India and even abroad. Just opposite the institute is Jindal Aluminium Limited, which was the earlier company started by Dr. Sitaram. My Bangalore office was keen to get that account because it was considered to be a prestigious one. They have been trying to get it, but without success. During one of my visits, I was taken to see the factory. It was a wonderful experience. It was spick and span as though it was a surgical unit of an hospital. So neat and tidy. Sitaram was living in the same compound but at the rear of the factory. My visit was not known to him. Before going there, I had gathered information about their existing bankers and the limits they were enjoying with them. I was very much impressed with the working of the aluminium factory. As soon as I returned to the branch, I dictated a letter of sanction of limits and sent it with a covering letter to Sitaram. I had mentioned in that letter that I visited the factory that morning and I am pleased to sanction the limits mentioned in the enclosed letter. I had asked him if he decides to avail of the limits indicated, he should approach any of our branches convenient to him and complete the formalities of applying, etc. Sitaram was surprised that a bank was giving a sanction letter without the borrower even approaching the institution. Then and there, he decided to shift his account to our bank. Thereafter, when I moved over to Allahabad Bank and then on to the Bank of India, the account was also moved without even my having to ask them to do so. In fact, when my successor in Allahabad went and met Sitaramji with a request not to shift the account, Sitaram said to him that his account will go to whichever bank I was going to. Just imagine, if this was going to happen now, there would be a CBI inquiry as to why the bank sanctioned the limit without any request from the client. Obviously, the sanctioning authority would be in trouble. When I write about my years in Bank of India, I will explain how I did not succumb to pressures from powers in matters of granting loans or favors that I considered unworthy. We think that we make our destiny, and little do we realize that there is someone who knows that what we deserve and gives it at the right time. I had approached the finance minister with a request that I could be considered for posting at IOB. He agreed. He spoke to the PM and got her approval also. But what happened thereafter will prove that what I have said at the beginning of this paragraph. When the final recommendation was put up to the finance minister for approval, he saw that the name recommended was that of Mr. P.B. Srinivas and not this R. Srinivasan. The FM inquired further and found out that he was backing me for the post in IOB. The President of India, Sri Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy, also spoke to the PM recommending the other Srinivas. The PM felt that both FM and the president were speaking about the same Srinivas and she okayed it. I did not get that post. A few months later, the FM asked me to take up the chairmanship of Allahabad Bank in Kolkata. Everybody knows how Kolkata used to be in the years 1980s. Naturally, I was unwilling to take up the offer. I went and met the FM and pleaded that I wanted to return to my native place and was requesting to be posted in IOB, and as that did not materialize, I should continue in Delhi itself in NBI. You know how shrewd the FM was and is. He is now the President of India. He laid down his office as President of India on 25th July 2017. He said, "Yes, you wanted to go to your native place, and so I agreed. Now that it is not happening, I want you to go to my native place." I simply sub- I simply submitted and agreed to the command. In due course, I was moved to Allahabad Bank, Kolkata, and orders were issued accordingly. On the same day of getting those orders, I took charge of Allahabad Bank at their New Delhi regional office situated in Parliament Street. That was on September 6, 1982. A couple of days later, our entire family moved home, including a puppy bought For my youngest son, who was very fond of dogs, this was the fulfillment of my promise to him that I would get him a dog if I ever become an assistant general manager. I was so sure that I need not worry about the promise because I never imagined I would become the assistant general manager. In fact, we got the female dog only after I became a DGM. She was given to me free by an elder brother of Mr. Ramesh Kohli. The dog remained with us for nearly 16 years and died only after her master, my youngest son, got married and went on to his honeymoon. What happened to NBI after I relinquished my job there and moved on to take charge of Allahabad Bank in Kolkata is none of my business to tell. However, I must place it on record that during the less than 2 years of my being in the head of new bank, I restored the bank to its previous prominent position among its contemporaries, brought the discipline in the rank and file of the staff, improved the work culture, and left it in a sound financial health. How my success is managed or mismanaged in such a manner that RBI and Government of India were left with no alternative except to persuade Punjab National Bank to take over NBI, which happened in 1993, just 2 years after my superannuation, may be an interesting subject for research by anyone keen on this academic exercise. The chapter First Leadership Opportunity New Bank of India is completed. Now next chapter will be Allahabad Bank, Kolkata. Thank you very much for your patience. Please like and share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel.